Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? This is Enrique, your host of Spanish United. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Laura S. Younai, and would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Laura Younai, and I'm with the Iranian American Jewish Federation Public Affairs Committee.
Excellent, excellent. So tonight's questions that like we had gone through text messages is going to be about Iranian Jewish Hispanic relations, Hispanophobia, and also to discuss on how both communities can improve relations through investment, dialogue, cultural exchange, and through mutual cooperation.
Um, I'm
Right.
ready for you.
Okay, perfect, perfect. I just wondering where you went. Okay, the first question I would like to ask to you, Miss Yunai, is going to be on Iranian Jewish Hispanic relations. As I had spoken to you on the message, I myself, I'm a member of the Hispanic Spanish Jewish community myself, but the Hispanic Jewish community in America is very small compared to the Iranian Jewish community, especially here in Southern California. And I would like to discuss about how can we improve relations between both groups, and at the same time, how can the Iranian Jewish community of Los Angeles and the Valley, which is more established, they could extend like an olive branch towards the Hispanic community or towards the Hispanic Jewish community as a whole. So I want to ask, what's your take?
Well, we did speak a little bit prior to this. I don't. I feel like the Persian Jewish community and the Hispanic community have a good relationship. There's many of us who are business owners. We work with, people in the Hispanic community. Our children in the Valley attend schools with the Hispanic community. Um, I feel like we do have a good relationship. Now, there is the side where the younger people who are coming, from other countries, um, because of maybe a little bit of anti-Zionism, have are also harboring a little bit of anti-Semitism,
Hmm.
and that seems to be across the board with the young generation right now. Unfortunately, I think because we have failed to educate the youth in this country and all over the world, actually. Um, they are buying into the propaganda of, the whole apartheid, Israel apartheid thing, and it's playing into the anti-Zionism.
Hmm. And how do you feel that anti-Zionism can be addressed with the Hispanic community?
Um, Through education.
Okay.
It's, through education, of course, it's up to us to educate.
Hmm.
Um, if we want to teach, it's up to us to, put out our hand and bring people in and educate them about ourselves.
Right, I agree with you. And my background as a teacher in education, one of the things that I would teach my students would be ask questions, have have critical thinking, always do your own investigation, look at all the facts, and then come to your own conclusions. I think that's something that I think is very important, which is missing pretty much everywhere in this country. But I also feel that the best way to remove stigma would be not just educating people, but also to invite people. For example, like I think a very good way of reaching out to the Hispanic community would be inviting leaders, civic leaders of the Hispanic community, like to like functions that the Persians do like every once or a couple of years. I invite them to like the Persian synagogues, especially like Hispanic Jews that may not have a community of their own, because Hispanic Jews are technically Sephardim. And even
Yeah.
though Iranian Jews are considered on subset of Mizrahi, they're grouped together as being Sephardim. So I think that is a very good way of reaching out, and also to dispel any stigma that people may have towards Jews in general, because in general, a lot of people that are usually anti-Semitic, believe it or not, are people that have never even met a Jew, or have never even spoken with one, or know what they believe. You know, they're just going by what they hear by people that they know, like through, like you said, through the media, and also through not being engaged. And I think that one of the things that I'm trying to do with Spanish United is to bridge that gap between both people and bring them together. And I think it will do a lot of amazing things. And I think that will offset any stereotypes that Hispanics may have against Jews, because a lot of it is based on ignorance, not on fact. But I think to dispel that ignorance, I think the Jewish community needs to do their part of Tikkun Olam, which is repair the world, and also be a beacon to the world by extending an olive branch. And I think that's something that I think the Iranian American Jewish Federation is doing. But I think they should invite like Hispanic leaders like to speak in their functions, and I think that will create a very good exchange between both groups.
I agree with you 100%. I think we need to do that. We need to also, figure out how to educate, and it's become very difficult because there's a lot of anti-Zionist propaganda out there, which in turn, for some reason, with no other people other than Jews, it turns into anti-Semitism.
Hmm. I
And
agree.
you know, and unfortunately, even our own Jewish youth are not being educated.
Hmm.
And we are witnessing a high number of Jewish youth who are becoming anti-Zionists.
Yes.
And that also follows with the Hispanic community in general is very religious. They're very religious Christians, and they've classically always been known to be Zionists.
Hmm.
But you know, the schools are failing to educate them. Not only that, but there are teachers who are propagating the anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism in schools right now.
Hmm.
And we are even losing the Christian youth
Hmm.
to the propaganda and the lies. So it's a big job, but we need to figure out how to educate people and bring and teach them the truth.
Hmm. I agree with you. And again, I think one of the best ways to educate people is, like I said, is to reach out to the people, by doing like events, invite people from the community in, so that way they know who you are, what you're about, what you represent. And that's a good way of, helping to dispel any stigma that people may have. That's basically what I'm doing. Like there's a lot of stigma against Hispanic people because of undocumented immigration, because of the demographic change in the country, and also because of job security. So you have a lot of people that they go by stereotypes that Hispanics are a certain way, and I think one of the things that I'm doing with my organization is educating Hispanic people to be better people, and to reach out to others that are outside of the community. I am also working with other Hispanics to bring all Hispanics under one group, because as Jews are not monolithic. You have Jews from different countries, different languages. They have different minhanim, different customs. We're not all the same. Same thing with Hispanics. Hispanics are of different races, different ethnicities, different religions, One thing that we share as a common denominator is that we speak one language, we have one culture, and have one identity. So I'm also trying to eliminate the tribalism within the Hispanic community and bring everybody together as one. Because when all the Hispanics come together as one group, they pretty much outnumber everybody else. And I think it would be beneficial for the Jewish community as a whole to have good relationships with the Hispanic community as a whole, because I think they can mutually benefit. And my second question is also about Hispanophobia. I have a very deep concern about Hispanophobia that has been becoming very rampant in the last couple of years. And I've seen a lot of Hispanic phobic attacks. There was a security guard who was killed in Gardena, who was a young man. He was 17 years old, by the name of Andres Guerrero. He had no record of any kind, and he was demonized by the media. And that was one of the reasons why I prompted to do Spanish United, because Hispanic people are the only ethnicity or minority in this country that does not have any minority protection or have hate crime clauses to protect them as they do with Jews, Muslims, Black people, and gay people. And I'm just concerned about the Hispanophobia that's happening as a whole. And I've spoken to Hispanics in the San Fernando Valley, that they kind of feel that they have experienced Hispanophobia by certain groups in the valley. And I wanted to ask, how do you feel the Iranian Jewish community can help in combating or addressing Hispanophobia?
That's a tough question. I mean, every community has to reach within itself and dispel, hate, racism, and all of that stuff. Um, I don't know. I mean, I haven't experienced or seen for myself that Hispanophobia is an issue in the Persian community. I've
Okay.
seen it in other places, but I haven't seen it within the Persian community.
Mhm. The reason why I ask, Ms. Younai, because I do a lot of intakes with many Hispanic people, and again, I'm just going by on an individual basis. I don't put everyone as a whole.
Yeah.
But I have spoken with workers that work in different places in the valley that have mentioned that in many places where they work with Persians, and this includes Persians of all ethnic backgrounds and religion, that in many ways they do feel exploited in some circumstances, and they also feel that they're not treated as equals. And this is something that I would also like to address, because again, it's not good to judge people as a whole, but unfortunately, as human nature shows, when you have one bad apple that does something wrong, it kind of paints an image or a perception of an entire people. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring out to you, and maybe you could tell me what could be ways that can be done to like dispel any animosity or possible stigma.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be surprising. What you're saying shouldn't be surprising to me. I mean, there's, as I said, racism and hate among all kinds of people. And you can't really bunch people together. Again, getting to know each other is the best way to dispel any kind of mistrust, disrespect, or racist feelings, whatever it is. You get rid of that by getting to know the people,
I
by
I
educating
agree.
yourself.
I agree
Yes.
with you. I agree with you. I was gonna ask, are you familiar like with Jewish cultural centers that are in the Valley by any chance?
Jewish cultural centers in the Valley.
Yes.
Really.
The reason why I ask because every community has like a cultural center, not just necessarily religious, but also cultural. So I know that there are a few Persian cultural centers or community centers that are in the Valley. And I think that will be a great idea is that there's a possibility where the Persian community centers could do a joint activity with the Hispanic community, and I think that that's a good way for people to meet each other face to face. And I think that will be a wonderful way to get people to interact with each other because I think one of the reasons why, like I said before, that people have prejudice towards Hispanics as a whole is because they don't know them. You know, just because they may look a certain way or they may perceive them as being a certain way because of social and economic backgrounds is like they don't have any value. And I think the best way to do that is that for people to get to know each other because I myself personally have experienced prejudice because of again because what people go by by stereotypes and what people assume, and it's like a lot of people they kind of get surprised when they meet a Hispanic that's actually as educated as they are because the myth that is in this country that Hispanics are tend to be lower educated or they don't have very good jobs that they're seen as either domestic workers or as farmers or as criminals. So it's like I want people to understand and realize that there are Hispanics that are educated, that want to be productive, and they are doing what they can to make their communities better. And I think that is something that that the Persian community can really help out with. I think they have a lot of tremendous clout and influence in many ways, and I think that is something that I think that that could be wonderful for them to do in the near future.
I think that's a great idea. Unfortunately, we are in the midst of this whole COVID
Right,
pandemic,
right, right.
and it's thrown us off a little bit. But I think that's a great idea. I think you always benefit by getting to know others. I work in the healthcare industry, and I employ 143 people, and I would say probably 125 of them are Hispanic,
Hmm.
and they're all professionals. And I also, I'm very close with most of them, and I see that they have come from many countries: Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico, all over. And they came here. They have tried to better themselves, and I also see that their next generation, which has been raised in this country, they are all being college educated. And so I have seen that firsthand for myself. And I think it's a great idea. People truly need to know this and find this out. Because as a first generation, I mean, I'm not a first generation, my children are first generation, but I came here from Iran. And, we experienced very similar things to what, Hispanics coming from all these different countries experience. It wasn't a very different experience.
Hmm.
Um, so we have so much in common with the Hispanic community. And it makes me feel bad if there isn't good relations,
Hmm.
because we have the same wants for our children, and we all work hard to give them everything. And I've witnessed that with the people that I work with.
Mhm.
um, so I absolutely 100% agree with you. I think it's a great idea. I think we do need to get together and get to know each other. um, but we'll have to figure out how to facilitate that in the
Oh, of
midst
course.
of
Of
COVID
course.
pandemic.
Well, like I said, one of the ways to do it is by having like what I'm doing right now with you. I'm doing a interview with you on Zoom, and we could hold like conferences or panels, through Zoom, because that's how a lot of people are doing it now since COVID
Yeah,
is right now happening. A lot of people cannot even meet, not even their own families. So I think through Zoom and the wonders of technology that Hashem has brought, it can definitely be used as a tool for good. And I think you know
absolutely.
there should be plans in the future, during this pandemic, where you have leaders like myself, Spanish United, meet, let's say, for example, with the Iranian American Jewish Federation or the Persian community, whatever, and and have joint talks, and to have people from the audience ask each other questions, ask about things, and also to address maybe stereotypes that people may have about each other, because again, people, unless they get to know you, they automatically could think whatever of you. And I think that's one thing that should be done, is that you have people from both communities, both the Hispanic community and the Persian community, engage with each other, ask each other questions, try each other's food, learn each other's languages. Like I myself, I think I told you last time we spoke, I was part of a Persian Jewish community for about 5 or 6 years, and I did everything in Farsi. My Humesh and my Sidur, my Tehillim is in Farsi. I was learning Farsi. I was very involved, as much as I could, because, like I said, there's no Hispanic synagogues in this area, and the Hispanic community is very small. So I felt very comfortable with the Persian Jewish community there. I was treated very well, and I did a lot of things with the high holidays. So I think that is something that I think both of us should do. That we could have joint conferences where you have you know people from the audience, they ask each other questions, and also to be honest, because I think what's lacking in this country in general, because of the political correctness, is that people are afraid to speak because they're afraid to be labeled as prejudiced or xenophobic or whatever. And I think that's something that, if there is honest discussion and dialogue, I think that will um, help to dispel any issues that there might arise in the future.
Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head. Political correctness uh, is responsible for a lot of things, and I think also cultural differences. When I speak, to you, I may say something that may be offensive to you, but it's totally normal with my people,
Right.
and vice versa. And so, I think misunderstandings like that happen a lot too
Hmm.
in the communities like ours.
Yes, yes. And my final question of the talk would be, how can we find ways to increase more communication with each other, with both groups, through cultural mutual investment and education. So like, what can be the avenues or the methods or ways that we could reach out with both communities on these um, um, topics that I mentioned now.
Um, well, as you said, maybe do some panels to educate people. We'll have to figure out how to get people to want to participate,
Right, right.
which is always, it's a lot easier to have, a party and put food out and then say, "Hey, come eat food," and then, while you're eating, we'll discuss something. It's
Hmm.
a lot harder to say log into a computer and we're gonna talk and you can ask questions.
Right.
But we'll have to figure out how to engage both our communities.
Hmm.
Um, that's something that we're gonna have to figure out. I'm not sure how we would do it, but it's worth trying.
Yes, I would like to see investment from the Persian community to the Hispanic community. I think that could also help in bridging the economic disparities because Hispanics, as a general, they have the lowest income bracket compared to other groups that are immigrant groups like Persians, Chinese, Jews, etc. And I think if we are able like to raise the level of income and improve the standard of living of the Hispanic community, I think that would definitely work wonders. And I think that the Persians as whole, since they are business people, I think if they were to set up workshops and like in the Hispanic neighborhoods and train people on business, on merchandising, on finances, I think that would be a great icebreaker in reaching out to people because a lot of Hispanics they feel that they're exploited by other groups of people, and I think if Hispanics feel that you have people from the outside that generally want to help them be where the other people are at financially, economically, etc., I believe they will be more receptive in learning from them because a lot of Hispanics, especially like immigrant groups that may not have the same level of education, they don't emphasize much on education as let's say Hispanics that come from more higher educated socioeconomic backgrounds. So I think that will be a good way to reach out to people would be like establishing workshops and then you have Persians training, Hispanic, leaders to train the people. I think that would be an excellent idea.
It's an interesting idea. I think that, from what I've seen, Hispanics value education. I think we have the reason that, you say Hispanics are in the lowest I'm sorry, um,
Bracket.
brackets, I think because of the sheer numbers. But if you look, at immigrant communities, like for instance, I mean, the Hispanic community compared to Asians or any other immigrant community is, their numbers are so much more that maybe that's why you feel that way. But I think that in every community there are people of different socioeconomic levels.
Hmm.
And one of the hardest things is, and this is in the Asian community, we have the same thing. People who are not legally in this country.
Hmm.
And it's a little difficult. I mean, I personally know someone who is one of the brightest women that I have ever met in my life. She has managed to become fluent in English, but after living in this country for so many years, she still hasn't managed to become legal in this country.
Hmm.
So, there's only so many jobs that she could have. I would love to hire her to work in my office because she can handle the work, but I can't really hire her because she's not legal. And those are the issues. They, even in the Persian community we had that for a long time.
Hmm.
People who didn't have papers. In the Asian community, I see it. In Northern California, there's a lot. Um, those are issues that, that's what needs to be addressed.
I agree. I definitely agree with you 100%. A lot of people are barred from a lot of things because of their immigration status, and I think that if people are able to fix their status, I think that would help them, to get a better quality of life.
Yes, because I think, I don't think there are any less than anyone else in the country. There are so many who could do so much more than they are able to get jobs for.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, everything's become political.
Right.
And
Unfortunately.
the Hispanic community is being used as a, you know, political ping pong ball or tennis ball.
Right, and that is something that I
Happen.
don't like because I feel that both the left and the right, they like to use Hispanics as a tool to try to get
Good job.
a political gain or financial gain, and I think that's not right. And unfortunately, a lot of Hispanics, even the ones that are American born, is like they're too passive aggressive. It's like, they don't say anything about it. I don't know why, but I think Hispanics need to be more vocal because it's like, I don't think it's right. I think it's wrong, and I don't think we should be used by any group, for a political game because it doesn't get us anywhere. Because we still have a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and if there is this political nonsense of come to my side or come to your side, it doesn't really benefit the people. It actually hurts the people.
Yes.
All right. That's all we have time for. We have tonight. I wanted to thank you very much for being on the show, Laura. As soon as I'm done, I will definitely send you the link.
Thank you very much.
Have yourself a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.